Well, hello and thanks for joining me again for some more landscape photography. Today I'm down at the church in the sea, and once again I seem to find myself out in rather challenging conditions. Now, these particular conditions I've actually picked quite carefully. The weather is probably slightly more aggressive than I'd hoped for. It's not quite a named storm, but it is a really deep Atlantic low that's come bowling in. But what I'm specifically here for on this blustery morning is a very, very high spring tide at 5.2 meters. It's just about as high as it gets around here. About an hour ago, the sun came up over to my right-hand side, and a new moon is right alongside it as we speak. And so this is when you get the highest spring tides. And it's one of the things that I do notice with people that come to the coast who perhaps aren't that experienced of how things work around here. But tides are really, really important for landscape photography. Now, I have something this morning very specifically in mind, an image which is going to be a complete opposite to one that I got a few years ago. That was at a high tide as well, admittedly, but it was a midsummer's evening when it was a beautifully still, calm, pleasant experience. However, I wanted some drama to counterpoint that, and I'm pretty hopeful I'm going to get that today. The first thing I've noticed is that I can't walk along the beach to get to my position to shoot the church. The tide is far too high. There's a little sliver of beach, but some of the waves are going right up to the back of it, and I'd get washed away, far too risky. So what I'm going to do is try and make my way along the headland through the fields to get into position, and then we'll see how it pans out from there. I've struggled down to the end of the beach where I need to be. The problem I'm having is that this bay faces due southwest, and that's exactly where this 50-mile-an-hour sustained is coming from. I've lived here a very long time and I've never seen anything like it. I actually don't understand why the sort of muppets that bother to name gentle breezes haven't named this one, because it's as bad as I've ever known it. I'm only doing this piece to camera right now on the off chance that it's even half usable. I'm certainly not going to be putting the camera on a tripod and having a gentle chat with you about my composition. But I am going to take some images, because it's conditions like this that make for good photography. So wish me luck. Now, when I was down on the beach, it quickly became apparent I would have no chance whatsoever of creating that counterpoint image that I was after against the one that I showed you earlier. I needed to be kind of down just on the very edge of the beach, but there wasn't any beach. And even when I was up just on the headland down there, the waves were just breaking in my face. It's really, really difficult. And so it was just chucking water at me the entire time. What I've done now is come up a little bit higher onto the cliff. I'm still taking advantage of the fact that the church is isolated by the tide. It's dropping off quite quickly, but nevertheless, it's completely surrounded by seawater at the moment. So by coming up onto the cliff, despite the fact I've gained a bit of elevation, I'm slightly more out of the wind and I'm not at the mercy of the spray. Also, I've actually got some quite nice light and detail in the sky. So even though so far today, all the images I've shot could easily be absolutely terrible and unusable, I'll show you what I've got later on if I've got anything. All of that said, it's an amazing location. The conditions, whilst difficult for photography, are brilliant. It's so dramatic and exciting. So if I wasn't trying to take pictures, and more importantly, if I wasn't trying to talk to you on video, I'd be having a lovely time. Well, now, completely coincidentally, about 160 videos ago, I was stood in this exact same spot on my very first one. And I said at the time this channel would be warts and all. And I think today absolutely epitomizes that ethos. I'll be absolutely astounded if there's a single image worth sharing with you. However, if there's anything, it will be because of the conditions, not despite them. Because conditions like this, when it's really tough, are when sometimes you just get that amazing photograph. But the problem with this location is very much the exposure, and I don't mean the photographic exposure. There is nowhere to hide, there's no shelter at all. So you're right in the teeth of any gale that's going, you're in the face of the elements, and that really does make it difficult. Anyway, I don't care about any of that because I've had a really good time. I'm only 5 minutes from home where there'll be some hot coffee and a lovely wife waiting for me. So I'm going to leave it here for this one. Thank you ever so much for joining me. I really hope you've enjoyed it. And if you have, why not subscribe now and join me next time. Cheers.